loves, and welcome to today's video. September has ended, and while it was a bit of a slower reading month than I normally have because of all the school stuff, I did still read a decent amount in September, enough to do a little wrap up for you today. In September, I managed to complete 14 books, 1,923 pages, and 34.17 hours of audiobook, and my average rating was a 3.8, so it was a decent reading month. Let's get started with the 3 stars. The 2 3 stars that I have, I'm not going to go into super amount of detail for, because they were Chuck Tingle books that I read for my bingo vlog. If you want full thoughts on them, you can watch that video. The 2 books were Not Pounded by My Soul Crushing Job Because I Quit, and I Went on a Hunt for the Easter Bigfoot and Now He's Eating My Ass by Chuck Tingle. These are erotica, they're jokes, they were decent, they were okay, but not my favorite Chuck Tingles because I've read quite a few at this point, so they were only 3 stars. There was a whole vlog about me reading Chuck Tinglers if you're interested. At 3.25 stars, we have 3 books. The first is The Pallbearers Club by Paul Tremblay, and I feel like it is blasphemy for me to say this in this sweater, but I don't think I hated this book as much as some other people hate this book, but I didn't love it either. The premise of this one is there is a man who is publishing a fictional novel about vampires, but someone else, a woman, has come in and basically said, like, guy, this is a memoir of your life, and here's what actually happened at these different points in time, and she's like critiquing his writing style as we go through. That was a strong point for me. I did really like that commentary writing style. I just could not stand the main character, and I did really enjoy when the, like, female character would interject. I think her name was Mercy. I liked that, but he was such an insufferable person, the main character, that the majority of it being from his POV I was not enjoying. And then the twist at the end was so predictable that I just was not a big fan of this one. It did not grip me. It did not have that level of thriller and drama and horror that I would have wanted out of this book. So for me, a 3.25. The other 3.25 is The Hounding by Zenob Purvis. This is about a small town where things are not going great, like their river that they rely on is drying up and all this stuff. And there's this old man who lives on the outskirts of town with his 5 granddaughters, and the town starts to suspect that the 5 daughters are turning into dogs and attacking people. Going into this book, I thought we were going to get the perspectives of the girls. It is almost entirely the perspective of various townspeople in this small town. So it is more about the way that gossip can spread amongst different people in a small town than it is about feral girls. I support women's rights, I support women's wrongs. It was less that and more like townspeople be gossiping and they let their little imaginations get away with them. Not what I was hoping it to be. The writing style was pretty good, but plot-wise, I was pretty bored by this one. The last 3.25 is Black Flame by Gretchen Felker Martin. This is a horror book about a film archivist, which drew me in because when I used to play Delta Green, my character was a film archivist. They find this film from this Jewish director. This one got a bit lost on me. It had some flashbacks to like the World War times, and I'll be honest, it lost me. I don't think I have enough familiarity with Jewish culture and history outside of like the big thing to get this one. And I do not feel like the horror was interesting or frequent enough to make up for that. The horror came from anti-Semitism more than this film is haunted. This is the second time I've attempted a Gretchen Felker Martin, and I just feel like she might not be an author for me. So 3.25 to that one. Books I gave a 3.5 to. The first is Mockingjay by Suzanne Collins. This is the 3rd book in the Hunger Games trilogy, the original trilogy. Rebellion has happened and we are seeing the consequences of those actions and trying to find a better way forward. I think that's as vague as I can talk about it. For the people who don't know what this book is about 15 years later, it's got a 3.5 because I am unfortunately no better than the Capitol and find the games the most interesting part of the Hunger Games, and there's no games in this one. I do appreciate what it says about moving forward after rebellion, but also a lot of this does focus on the love triangle, which I get is YA, but also I'm a grown-ass adult. I don't care about these children and their love lives. So this one's only a 3.5. That is still a better rating than I think I gave it when I read it when I was 16. So overall, rereading the series did improve my ratings of them as a whole. The other 3.5 is Calabasas by R.F. Kuang. This book, this is like the buzzy book of the moment, and I give it a 3.5. So, Alice and Peter, their PhD supervisor has died, but they need his letter of recommendation, so they go to hell to try and track him down. And that is the setup in like the first chapter. They go to hell real quick. I am of two minds about this book because there's the first half of the book, which was a 5-star, and then there's the second half of the book. When we begin, it's Alice and Peter together going through hell, and they have all of these encounters with like people in the different levels of hell, and I was ha-ha-tee-heeing through all of that. There's this one scene particularly where they meet the shades of undergrad students, and I thought that was so funny, and I was texting people like, oh my god, this is the Divine Comedy. Like, it is literally a comedic take on Dante's, Inferno, whatever. I know it's all called the Divine Comedy, right? Okay. And then something happens like halfway through, and then the book started to lose me, and I was just waiting for it to be over. So it got a 3.5 overall. Second half dragged. I don't think it had the payoff that I wanted it to have, because the payoff we got could have been better served if we had had more build-up, but was prevented by that thing that happens halfway through, which is my very vague way of describing this so that I don't spoil people, but I think if you've read the book, you kind of know what I'm talking about. And while I still love R.F. Kuang as a writer, I just don't think that this one ended up being what I hoped and prayed it would be. So while it's stunningly gorgeous, this is only a 3.5. Okay, books at a 4.0. The first one is The Bad Beginning by Lemony Snicket. I did end up reading it in September. The first book in Series of Unfortunate Events. It is the setup of the Baudelaire orphans becoming orphans and then moving in with Count Olaf, their first guardian. The way I said in my TBR video when I was talking about Series of Unfortunate Events, like, I just need to read something that's not about law, forgetting that The Bad Beginning hinges on the strict interpretation of the wording of a law. I gave this a 4.0. I enjoyed it. It's not my favorite series of all time. I did really like the graphic audio adaptation of it. Tim Curry definitely is performing, and I'm loving that. I love the way Lemony Snicket writes the vocab words that he manages to sneak into these children's novels and also like explain them to people. This one was a 4. So we're starting off on a decent basis of reading the series again as an adult. I'm hoping that I can continue to enjoy the rest of the series. I'm excited for The Reptile Room. The Reptile Room was the one that I used to read over and over again. I don't think I ever actually finished the series, but I did read The Reptile Room multiple times because I love snakes. Also gave a 4 to this little book that my sibling sent me, Future Me is Fat by Molly Cronin. This is a graphic novel about a woman who is upset with the fact that she is overweight. So she travels back in time to when she was younger and when she was skinnier and then into the future, and really comes to terms with being comfortable in her body. I thought it was pretty fun. I wouldn't widely recommend it to most people just because it's very personal, but 4.0 for that one if you wanted to have like a little graphic novel about that. The last Tingler that I read in September is also on this list at a 4.0, and that is The Call is Coming from Inside of Your Butt, which, like, So funny. From the title alone, I am thankful to this one because it helped me cross off a lot of things on my bingo card that I didn't think I was going to get to cross off. Like I said earlier, if you want my full thoughts on a bunch of tinglers, I have my bingo vlog that you can go and watch and tee-hee-hee with me at the weird-ass titles that Chuck Tingle books have. Speaking of Chuck Tingle, at a 4.25, I read Lucky Day by Chuck Tingle. This is about a day that they call like the mass improbability event, where a bunch of people died, like millions of people died in like weirdly improbable ways. Like every Boeing 777 collides with each other, or a monkey dressed as Shakespeare kills someone with a typewriter. Like just weirdly improbable things. We follow our main character who literally wrote the book about this one casino where the odds just don't make sense, and it is impossible that people win at that casino as often as they do. And then there's a 4-year break and jump, and she is approached by a government agency to investigate that casino because they think it is somehow tied to that mass improbability event. 4.25. Really enjoyed the horror aspects of this, like the casualty events that happen throughout it were so interesting, so well defined. If you like the Final Destination kind of horror, the Rube Goldberg machine of events that cascade into someone dying in a gruesome way, this is going to deliver that for you. I do feel like the messaging got a little heavy-handed at the end of like, it's so improbable that you exist, so life is worth living. Kind of reminded me of like the Midnight Library. I was enjoying the journey, and then we abruptly stopped to give a life lesson about the value of human life, and that just tonally shook me. I wasn't a big fan of that, so it got a 4.25 because I was enjoying most of it, and then the end kind of lost me. Okay, books at a 4.5. We have Slay by Brittany Morris. This book is about a Black teenager who has invented this MMO for the Black community. All of the like trading cards or whatever that you battle with are themed on Black culture and Black history. Someone is like killed over the currency in the game, and it becomes this big news story as to whether this game is encouraging violence and discriminatory. So she's like a 17-year-old, like, I don't know, man, I just wanted to have a game where I didn't feel like people were being racist against me. We see how she deals with that. I really enjoyed this one. I thought that the messaging was great. I thought that the characters were really strong. I feel like we got a very good amount of perspectives on the issue that was being presented in this book, and I think that if you are a fan of like Tiffany D. Jackson's writing, I think that you would also like this one. That is my recommendation. If you are a Tiffany D. Jackson reader, maybe try picking this one up. Next book at a 4.75 is First Chance Exception by Raymond Arfianto. This book is written by a game developer, and it is about a game studio who is told by their executives that they need to have a playable demo by E3, and so you follow the game development team as they try to develop the features that the head office tells them to develop within the timelines that they've been given, and the hijinks that ensue when things go wrong. This developer specifically worked on Anthem, the BioWare MMO game. There are some things in here about like, oh, we were making a single player game, and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, you have to make an MMO, and I'm like, I've seen this play before. So I assume a lot of this is based on real experience, but an amalgamation of real experiences across a career and not a play-by-play of exact scenarios, if you know what I mean. But I really enjoyed this as someone who is a video game lover, who has like a basic knowledge of the effort that goes into making a video game. I used to follow a lot of the BioWare devs on Twitter back in the day. So this I really enjoyed. It's independently published, so there's a few like formatting, spelling things that, you know, I can't give it a 5-star. But overall, a little hidden gem, because this is, again, indie published. My sibling sent it to me, and I would recommend it if you're a video game nerd and you are interested in like stories of game development in a fictitious way. There is also like code and stuff throughout this, but they do a really good job of explaining what you're looking at. So that's makes this a little bit of a quicker read too. And lastly, we have a new 5-star book of the year. So, The Witch of Willow Sound by Vanessa F. Penny. I got an arc of this from the publisher, so thank you ECW Press, for review purposes, but I will always tell you if I don't like arcs. I have quite a few vlogs on my channel where I tell you exactly how much I don't like arcs. I say that I was not expecting this to be a 5-star, and it blew me away. I am being truthful. This is about our main character who gets text from her mom like, hey, the police are saying your aunt has gone missing and we haven't talked to her in decades. But can you like go to her small town, Nova Scotia cottage in the middle of nowhere and see if the police are telling me the truth? He goes to rural Nova Scotia to her aunt's house where everyone in the town thinks her aunt is a witch, and she has to try and find her aunt while also avoiding the accusations of witchcraft from the town. I was so drawn into this plot-wise. The writing is so beautiful and cozy, while at the same time there are like really brutal moments in this book. I am not like a practicing Wiccan or witch or anything, but I feel like this book had the most beautiful depiction of witchcraft I have read in any book ever. Like the way the witchcraft spells, potions stuff was described felt so grounded and realistic, but also so poetic and beautiful at the same time that like I cried at the end of this book because I was just so overwhelmed with how beautiful and lovely everything in this book was. Also a moment for the cover, because like this is the cover that I would have wanted We Love You Bunny to have. Did I say that? I think this book is beautiful inside and out. And if you are someone who likes stories about witches, stories about small towns, highly recommend this one. But also be aware that the first chapter of it is probably the most brutal in terms of description. So if you read the first chapter and you're like, I don't think I can read this, this is kind of gory and gross, it's chills out after the first chapter, but I do think that the first chapter is just so beautifully written anyway, so appreciate it. Those are all the books that I read in September. I'm pretty proud of myself for getting that many read on top of all of my school readings, which I am up to date on as of this week. If you made it to the end of the video, let me know the best book that you read in September, or leave the matcha tea emoji, because tea is part of the magic in The Witch of Willow Sound. If you enjoyed, like and consider subscribing so you don't miss any of my future videos. There are links in the description to my Goodreads and my Instagram if you want some previews on what I read throughout the month. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.